Hey, how's it going? My name is Evan Schneider. I'm a colorist and cinematographer, and I'm also the creator of LUT Co. I designed the Wedding LUT Pack to make it easy to achieve a bright and airy look for your wedding films. This pack is known for its gorgeous skin tones, cool greens, pastel-like highlights, and nice rich shadows. And it has a sort of refining effect that really polishes your footage and pushes it into a very attractive color palette. They work with any scene from any part of the day, from getting ready, interior shots, to exterior portraits, ceremony, and even into receptions that may have very low light. You can even top off the look with a subtle film grain across your entire timeline. During the development of these looks, I actually teamed up with a group of some of the top wedding filmmakers in the industry for them to actually use the LUTs and test them in real world scenarios. Now, these LUTs were designed for a standard color profile or Rec 709. So if you're shooting in a log profile for more flexibility, you're gonna want to apply a conversion LUT before you apply the wedding LUT. In this LUT pack, along with the base wedding LUT, you're going to receive 4 variations to make it even more flexible in your workflow, including a warm and cold variant, as well as a high contrast and low contrast, depending on the type of profile that you're shooting in. So the base wedding LUT is kind of going to be your all-around look. Oftentimes you can apply this look on top of your whole timeline and then adjust the clips to match underneath. Another workflow that you might prefer is, instead of using an adjustment layer, you can just go shot by shot and choose the wedding LUT. This gives you the flexibility to use the warm and cool variants on the footage to make sure that it matches shot by shot. On this shot, I'm just going to apply the base wedding LUT, and you can see that it really warms up the skin tones and it pushes all of those green tones into a really cool, nice contrasting color to the skin. The only thing that I would do from here is just bring up the exposure to make it nice and bright, and then I might bring down the highlights just to save those in the trees in the background, and bring up the shadows, and then adjust the black point. The only other thing that I might do is, because of all the greens, I might push it a tiny bit more magenta and a little bit cooler to really get those nice filmic tones in the image. So with just a few small adjustments, we've really taken this image and made it really polished, really refined looking. And you can see this before and after, before and after. So it really has that nice bright and airy look. And we're using the wedding base LUT to kind of create those boundaries for us to do our basic corrections. And it really makes this footage look incredible. This shot is a really good example of when you can use the high contrast and low contrast variants. So in this shot, if I apply the base wedding LUT, it gives us a really good position to start in. But I think this image needs to be a little bit brighter, and I could use a little more detail in the trees behind. And so bringing up these exposures, I find that I might want a little bit more contrast. So in that case, I'm going to go to the wedding high contrast, and it just adds a little bit more punchiness, brings the shadows down a little bit more, but it keeps the highlights in relatively the same position. So if you're looking for a bit of a stronger look, the high contrast version can be really helpful for you. This footage was shot with a DJI drone in D-Log, and so it's a little bit on the cooler side, and it has a little bit less contrast than a normal camera would. So I'm going to use the wedding high contrast look for this shot. And after I apply it, I'm seeing that it's still feeling a little bit on the cool side and a little bit dark. So I'm just going to bring up the exposure a little bit, and I really like to use the shadows slider to kind of like bring out the detail in the shadows. And then I'm just going to push the color temperature up a little bit. I'm looking at the skin tones here to make sure that they're looking a little more accurate, a little more lively. Maybe push a bit of magenta into it. And at this point, the image is feeling a lot better. It's feeling a lot more natural. and it has that signature high-end wedding look that we're going for. Here's another shot of a cake that I really love. It's leaning a bit on the warm green side, so I'm just gonna choose the wedding cool version, and it's just gonna cool that image down and create those really nice, clean white tones. This shot is a really nice example of something that was shot kind of at dusk, golden hour or blue hour. And you can see that when we apply the wedding LUT to this shot, it really does an incredible job at bringing out those skin tones in her face, and it pushes the blue water really cool. And so you get this really nice pastel look across the footage and really makes this footage pop without a ton of work. Here's another example of a shot that feels a tiny bit on the cool side. So I might choose the wedding LUT warm, and it really pushes a lot of warmth into the footage, makes the skin tones really nice and warm, and the green tones are still nice and cool to give that good contrast. After I apply this, I might just bring down the color temperature just a tiny bit to bring back some of that warmth. And I'm just going to bring the shadows and highlights down to create a bit more of a moody tone. And you can see this is the before and this is after. So the wedding LUT has really added a lot of warmth. So this final example is just a shot that is from a reception. It's pretty dimly lit. There's really dark shadows and there's not a whole lot of dynamic range going on. And so this would be a great contender for the low contrast version of the wedding LUT. So when I apply it, it really just refines those skin tones a little bit, but it doesn't add a whole lot in terms of contrast and tone curve. And so now it gives me room to adjust the color temperature a little bit to bring down some of those warmer tones in the skin. And I might add a little bit of magenta to get rid of some of that green cast. And so this is before and this is after. So I hope you can see that these LUTs are truly a joy to work with, and they really transform your footage into a very polished, very high-end, bright and airy color palette to work with. And they really make people and portraits and anybody in your shots really come to life. Plus, you're going to save a lot of time. You're not going to have to mess with a lot of different looks or overpowering LUTs. I think you'll find that you'll really love using them in your workflow, and I'm super excited to see what you guys do with them.